What's up, boys? Dan from DNR Sports here. Today, we're going to be looking at the receivers 7 through 12. These are my best ball wide receiver rankings. We went over 1 through 6 already. If you want to go check that video out, go for it. But without further ado, let's get right into it. So, this is by full PPR, by the way, so we're using DraftKings, not Underdog. So we got their number 7 is Justin Jefferson, based on ADP. Going around pick 24.2. My wide receiver 7 is Tyreek Hill. Yeah, I know. He's everyone's wide receiver 1 when Davante Adams is not certain to have Aaron Rodgers. I get it. I understand why. I know he will probably most likely finish as a top 5 receiver. But as crazy as this is to say, Tyreek Hill doesn't have the upside. He doesn't have the upside that the other people have. If we look at his career over here, we see that his highest reception year is 87. He did it twice in both his Pro Bowl years. The thing about the receptions is when we're comparing him to other receivers like Davante Adams, Davante I have projected for 135 receptions. I have Michael Thomas for 134, Stephon Diggs for 124, Calvin Ridley for 107, D-Hop for 118, and Justin Jefferson for 108. That's minimum 21, 20 less than the next guy, which is Calvin Ridley. So automatically, that's like a 200-yard difference if you think of it like that. He does not get the receptions. Now, he makes up for it in the touchdown category. So let me just tell you what my projections are for him. I have 92 receptions. I'm giving him more receptions than he's ever had in his career. I have 1,360 yards. Very respectable. As we look at his career, we see that that would be his second place finish. It was some type of averaging between the 1479 and the 1276. But obviously that 1479 was an outlier year. I don't think Tyreek Hill gets enough targets to sustain that, right? And when we look at this year, I know you don't really want to take out games because it just ruins it. But like if you do take out that Tampa Bay game, he barely eclipses 1,000 yards this season, playing 15 games. That's not great. Like we all like to say he was amazing this year, but touchdowns really, really carried him. And then I have him for 12 touchdowns next year, 3 less than this past year. I don't think that's unfair to say. Some TD regression will probably happen. I think he'll still be one of the leaders, definitely top 5 in touchdowns. But I think receptions to be a full 500 yards when you think about 430 yards less than Davante Adams. And if you look at it as like 135 receptions equals 135 points. You guys get the math I'm saying here. That many more receptions is equal to 430 more yards. You know what I mean? Like, it's just so easy for Davante to beat him because he gets so many more receptions. Same with Thomas, same with Diggs, same with Hopkins, same with Jefferson, same with Ridley. They all are going to get more receptions. I know everyone loves Tyreek Hill. He's going number 1 overall. Everyone likes the Chiefs offense. Everyone likes Travis Kelce. I get it. But that's also the reason why he's not number 1 is Travis Kelce, because he isn't the number 1 on his team. Davante, clear number 1. Thomas, clear number 1. Diggs, Hopkins, Ridley. Sort of Jefferson. Not really. But the other 5, clear number 1s. They're going to get 30% or more of their target shares, each of them. Justin Jefferson, just that 1,400-yard upside he showed his rookie year, that's unheard of. So I had to say he has more upside than Hill. Hill just straight up does not get enough catches. That's the bottom line. Wide receiver 7 isn't bad, but there's going to be those weeks where he does nothing for you. And I know it's best ball, so it doesn't hurt you that bad. You don't have to predict the weeks. But these are just my rankings. That's my projections. I think that's a fair projection. I don't think 92 receptions for almost 1,400 yards and 12 touchdowns is under projecting him at all. You know what I mean? And he's only 1.7 points behind Jefferson in my total projections. He has 300. Jefferson has 301.7. The next guy on this list has 295.8. And this one, you guys are going to be freaking mad at me for it, but it's Diontae Johnson. I don't care. I really don't care how outrageous this sounds. I have him projected for 111 receptions. There we go. 19 more than Tyreek. 1,248 yards and 10 touchdowns. As egregious as this may be to say, let's just look at Deontay's previous years. Diontae Johnson. Diontae had 92 targets coming in his freshman year. He was an absolute nobody. Nobody knew of him, like nothing. Played the 16 games, only had about 700 yards, 5 touchdowns. He wasn't even the starter. This past season, 144 targets, 88 receptions, 923 yards, 7 touchdowns. My reasoning on this is, if you were someone who played Diontae Johnson in DraftKings this past year, if you were one of those people who kept getting that injury bug, you know what I'm talking about. Diontae, I'm not even kidding me, 5 weeks burned me. He missed only 1 game, but there was at least 3 I can think of. I'm pretty sure it's 4 weeks where he left within like a couple minutes or the first half or something with an injury. There was plenty of weeks where this man got injured. So these stats aren't really reflective of 15 games at all. It's more like 11 to 12 games. Now, my projections for him may seem high, but if you look at 144 targets, that's already more than Tyreek Hill has ever gotten in his career. Already more. A full season of that, he's going to get 170 plus targets. I want a receiver who's getting that much. And with that crispy AB type route running, you can already tell Big Ben loves him. If you saw my previous Steelers video, it has most of the views of my channel actually, like about a month ago. Just go click on that. You'll see my Steelers rundown. I think that Diontae is going to take a step up. I think he's going to become the number one. I know he already is the number one, but he's going to really solidify that. Claypool and Juju are just helping him, right? And then I think Big Ben is going to gain that confidence that he should have really never lost, but it's a thing after injuries. You lose that confidence in your elbow or your knees or whatever you hurt, you know? You always are kind of tentative. He's an extra year removed for that Tommy John surgery. So he's going to be more amped up than ever. That deep ball is going to come back. Everyone says it's gone. I do not believe that at all. I am someone who's had knee injuries, and I know how it feels that first year back, how nerve-wracking it is. You don't want to mess up. You don't want to do this, do that. I think he'll be a lot more comfortable this year, right? And now they have Najee Harris taking some pressure off of the receivers. And I think Diontae Johnson is just going to flourish. He's the best route runner on that team. He's probably a top 10 already route running in the league. If you just watch him play and watch how much Big Ben eyes him down, this 144 targets isn't even like relevant because like there were so many plays where he was the number one read and Big Ben just had to look away because he was like triple covered. That type of thing. Like Big Ben wants to throw to him. And I know top 8, that hurts a lot of people, but when you look at this. Right now he's I don't even want to go through this. He's like, what's this? Probably 20th overall receiver. I'm not gonna count this, but that looks like the 20th overall receiver on DraftKings. No way. With the amount of upside he has, you know Big Ben can lock onto a singular target. Top 8 for me. Next up, we got the man, Keenan Allen. This, if you watch my TikToks and my shorts on YouTube, you'll see I had him a lot higher. I had him at 4, I believe, before all the Calvin Ridley trade news and all, the Julio Jones and everything. And then I really delved into these stats here. I really took a dive in and saw, like, even with 159 targets in his best season, he was only able to get 102 receptions. Only 102. That's bad. With 147 targets, only 100 receptions, not good enough. We look at Diggs, we look at Ridley, we look at Devontae and all them. Hopkins, they're getting 115 plus catches. That's 150 yards you're missing out on, basically. The yardage is 2. He's only crossed 1,200 once. This isn't winning your league. This is not top 5 fantasy receiver numbers. This 1,200 mark, not enough. Touchdowns are another thing. He's not a touchdown guy. 8 touchdowns is his most ever. I mean, that's fine if you end with 8. What if you end with 6 or 4 or 0? Oh, let's not count the 0. He played 1 game. But the 6 or the 4, he's done that twice. So I don't feel comfortable drafting him just because of Justin Herbert. I know he looked great at the end of last year, and they definitely have a connection, right? But the problem is there's really no upside. He gets the 100 yards and maybe a touchdown with about 10 receptions. But then there's those games he'll get like 5 for 47, and that's it. You know what I mean? He's just not that. He doesn't balance out those 5 for 47s with like 12 for 180 and 2. That all the other guys that I mentioned above him could just go nuts like that. Keenan, yes, he has done that before, but it's like once a season. The other guys have that in their locker room multiple times a season. I love him. He's a great route runner. I love the Chargers offense. They're one of my favorite offenses in the league. Definitely top 3. I can't pull the trigger on somebody who's not like the difference between him and Devontae is the speed. Like they're both the best route runners in the league, but Devontae's just that bit faster, Same with like Diontae Johnson. Great route runners, but Diontae has that like acceleration and burst. Keenan just does not have that in his locker to make plays on his own. That's just how it is. The next player. Oh, sorry. Let me tell you what Keenan Allen's projections are. Keenan, I have for 110 catches. I have him for the most ever in his career. Right, 1,303 yards, the second most in his career, and 8 touchdowns, tied for most in his career, for a grand total of 288.3 points. That is about 7.5 points lower than Deontay's projection, and that's with career numbers. See what I mean? You can't. Those are hefty projections, career numbers, and the other guys I just can see doing better. All right, next up's Amari at number 10 with 108 receptions. That's a career year for him. 1,284 yards and 8 touchdowns. All of this, let me bring him up for you guys to see his previous years. All of this, I believe, are record numbers. Yeah, he's never crossed 1,200. He's never crossed 100 receptions. And he is tied for 8 touchdowns here this last year, or 2 years ago. I think we all know the upside that Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb both possess on this Dallas offense. We saw in the first 5 weeks last year that Amari was on pace for about like 1,600 yards. His TDs were on pace for nothing. It was like 4, but like obviously that would have some positive regression. He'd probably end the season with not 1,600. It'd probably be like 13 to 14. But then probably like, 10-ish touchdowns or something like that. I think Amari's a great talent, obviously one of the best route runners. He is in a contested offense with Zeke, Gallup, and Lamb. And I guess Jarwin's back and then Schultz too. But he's the number one for receiving core. He'll break 1,000 yards. He'll do his thing. But I don't think he has that top tier upside just because there's so many other weapons. I think Dallas's offense as it is, combined with their terrible defense, is perfect for fantasy. It's what you want. Last year in the first 5 weeks, we saw that. Their defense would give up a bunch of points. They'd have to play comeback, and defenses let you throw all over them during comeback zones. That's just how that works. I'm sure Marius is going to get his share, just like I said in the stats. The stats are not bad, right? Like almost 1,300 yards, over 100 receptions, 8 touchdowns. That's not bad at all. That's 4 points under Keenan Allen. The next guy on this list is DK Metcalf. I don't see much changing, to be honest, for DK. I kind of kept everything the same just because he had a nice sophomore to rookie jump, 900 to 1,300 yards, 7 touchdowns to 10 touchdowns, 58 receptions to 83 receptions. That's all great. DK is another one of those guys who just isn't the top tier solely because of those receptions. He's not that Davante Adams tier because he cannot get the same receptions that Davante can get. He can get the touchdowns almost. Davante's still in his own league, but he gets the touchdowns enough. 10 is great. 1,300 yards, great. 83 receptions, that's just mediocre. If we're playing in a standard league, sure, go for him, beast. But on DraftKings, that's not what we want. Looking at the best ball standings on DraftKings, he's actually the 6th receiver off the board. I don't mind that. It's just like, I just think a lot of these guys have more upside. Nothing's really changing there, right? So I still have him projected for 86 receptions, like that's his new high, right? 1,364 yards and 10 touchdowns. That's just a little bit better than last year. And last year, everyone was going nuts about him. So I don't think that's an unfair projection either. That's 282.4 points. That's exactly 2 under Amari Cooper. So with these guys that are like 2 to 4 points apart, if you really feel strongly about Metcalf or Cooper or Allen or Deontay, any of them, like take them like over each other based on ADP, right? So out of those lists, Deontay is the biggest value ADP-wise, right? DK is the worst value ADP-wise because he's drafted the highest. You can get him for... You have to pay way more to get him, right? Deontay you can get at like the 54th pick. I've gotten him as far back as like the 60th pick. That's like taking candy from a baby. You cannot be taking Deontay Johnson as 60th overall. You know what I mean? Like he's too much upside. Whereas like a Tyreek Hill, you're paying that premium like 9th overall ADP when you can get Davante Adams at like 15 to 18, or like a Justin Jefferson at like 22, or Michael Thomas at like 28. You know what I mean? So when we take a look at the next player, let me pull this up. It's Julio Jones. It's Julio Jones, guys. I know. I swapped this right before the episode started. I'm just gonna be honest. It's either Julio or Allen Robinson. I can't decide. I went Julio over Robinson because they were 0.6 points away. Julio I projected for 263. Robinson is 262. I chose Julio because I do think he has that sheer upside and efficiency on the Titans offense, whereas Allen Robinson, the Bears offense, is not nearly as high powered. Julio I have for 86 receptions, 1,320 yards, and 7.5 TDs. Now, looking at his stats, that's a little generous in the TD department because we all know Julio kind of sucks at getting touchdowns. Let's look at his touchdown numbers from recent years: 368, 368. 7.5. I think that's fair. Definitely fair. It's on the higher end. 1,320 yards. The reason I didn't keep him up in this 1,400 to 1,500 range is just because it is a uber efficient offense that he won't be getting. You will never see Julio get 170 or even 203 targets in this offense. It's going to be the years I base this mainly off of are these 2 years right here. I think he'll get about 130 targets, and as we see, when he got about 130, he would get around 80 to 90 receptions, somewhere in that range, right? So I don't think it's unfair at all for my projections to say 86 catches, 1,320 yards, and 7.5 TDs, right? I think A.J. Brown is the worst receiver of this pairing. I do think Julio is the yak in yardage. Sorry, not yak, just yardage monster. A.J. Brown's the yak guy. But also, just to make this quick argument for Julio, let's look at A.J. Brown's stats. A.J. Brown has never been a real alpha. I'm sorry, as manly as this fucking dude is and all the sick catches he makes, like, dude, 84 targets, 52 receptions, not even 1,100 yards, 8 touchdowns. That's great. The touchdowns, 11 and 8. That's great. But he can't break 1,100 yards. 70 receptions. That's 70 receptions. Is 65 less than I'm projecting for Davante Adams. That's 650 yards he has to make up for. You know what I mean? That's not going to happen. And with 1,100 yards, sorry, boss, that's just not it. The TDs, that's great. I'm sure I do. Let me give you a leak. What's my projection for the boy, the man, A.J. Brown? I do have 8 touchdowns. I think his touchdowns stay within that 7 to 10 range. But I do think Julio is the alpha in this offense. And I think when he steps in the room and Ryan Tannehill takes notice, he'll be like, yeah, I love A.J. Brown, but god damn, Julio's a different animal. Julio's not that old yet, man. I know he's getting up there in age, but he's just not that old. Like he's still got it. Everyone forgets last year. Let's go take a look at Julio last year real quick. He was on pace for some crazy. Yeah, he played 9 games, 771 yards. That's probably about, what's that about? Like 13-ish hundred yards, and 2 of those games he left with injuries. So he's probably on pace for 1,100 yards in the most pass-happy offense. The reason I didn't completely nerf his yards because of like the less amount of passing, right? Because obviously he's not going to get the same targets as he did in Atlanta. I didn't nerf it completely because Tennessee is so efficient. I think there will be some big plays that he makes. He might be a little more sporadic than he used to be. He used to be always accountable for about 100 yards per game. This season he might go for 7 catches, 60 one week, and then he'll get 12 for 180 and 2. Like he will have very differing weeks. He'll be like a Tyreek Hill. So that's going to do it, boys. That's going to be the end of this episode of Top Receivers. That was my receivers 7 through 12. Tune back for the next one to see, what is that, 13 through 18, right? I'll be dropping that in the next few days. Leave a like if you did like this. Comment. I'm sure you guys have differing opinions. Let me know what you think. Subscribe if you're new around here. Turn the post notifications on. I can't even speak right now. Without further ado, I will see you boys later. Peace.
I can never ever find the right words, and there's no way this is real life. There's no telling you're the right girl, so I can only say that it feels right.